Why do many older adults experience a decline after 70? It's a common experience for older adults to notice a shift in their health after the age of 70. Even those who were mentally sharp and physically active just a few years ago can begin to feel different. Many people assume that the changes after 70 are simply due to genetics or bad luck, but that's not the full picture. There are deeper, less obvious factors that play a significant role in how we age. These aren't the typical issues like diet or exercise. Instead, they are subtle influences that can sneak past us, even if we've lived healthily up until this point. The good news is that once you understand these factors, you can do something about them. If you've ever wondered why it gets harder to stay healthy and live longer after 70, and how to protect yourself from these challenges, stay with me. By recognizing these 5 unexpected reasons, you can take steps to age more gracefully and enjoy a better quality of life. Let's explore them together. Reason 1. The hidden toll of emotional suppression from loss and isolation. By the time many people reach their 70s, they've experienced losses that most younger folks can't even begin to imagine. Losing a spouse, a sibling, a lifelong friend, or sometimes even a child. While the outside world may offer sympathy, what often goes unacknowledged is just how deeply these losses affect us. Not just in our hearts, but in our bodies as well. After the age of 70, it's not just grief that people experience. It's often emotional suppression. This is the slow, quiet habit of swallowing the pain rather than expressing it. Many feel the need to put on a brave face, telling themselves they should be used to it by now, or because they feel there's no one left who truly understands the depth of their loss. But here's the truth: the body doesn't forget when grief isn't processed. When we don't talk about it, share it, or feel it fully, it doesn't just go away. It gets stored inside of us, and over time, that emotional weight starts to affect us physically. The toll can be seen in many parts of our health. It can weaken our immune system, affect digestion, and disrupt our sleep. It can even change our hormone levels, leaving our nervous system in a constant state of quiet tension. The hardest part is that it happens silently. On the outside, you might look calm and composed, and you might even say you're fine, but if your shoulders feel heavier, if your breathing is shallow, if your spark of life has dimmed just enough that you no longer feel like yourself, grief may very well be the reason, even if you haven't spoken about it in years. I remember a man named John, who was 84 when he lost his wife of 52 years. He didn't cry much, saying it wasn't his way. He told everyone he was doing all right, but within a year he lost weight, stopped going to the senior center, and began having trouble sleeping, not because of illness but because his body was carrying sorrow that had never been allowed to release. What many don't realize is that emotional pain doesn't need to be dramatic to be damaging. It's not always the intense, obvious grief that affects us, but the quiet, suppressed grief that can show up in our health in ways we don't immediately recognize. Often, what keeps people alive well past 70 isn't just physical strength. It's emotional release. It's having a safe, open outlet for sadness, fear, and longing. It's being able to say, "I miss her," or "I'm still angry," or "I feel so alone," without fear of being judged. That kind of release is essential for healing. When we can let our hearts express what they've been holding onto, the body has space to heal too. People who live long lives tend to have some form of emotional outlet. Maybe it's a trusted friend, maybe it's writing in a journal, or maybe it's faith or a community group. It might even be a therapist who helps them unpack the stories they've carried for decades. Whatever the form, the principle is always the same. What gets expressed can be transformed, but what stays buried festers and weighs us down. If you've been holding something in, not because you wanted to, but because you didn't know where to put it, it's time to make space for it. Not just for the sake of your emotions, but for your life. Because the truth is, the heart can only carry so much before it begins to quietly shut down. And if you want to live well beyond 70, not just breathing but truly alive, you have to let yourself feel too. Reason 2. The gradual loss of daily purpose. As we get older, one of the most overlooked reasons many people struggle to thrive past 70 is the slow loss of something so simple yet so essential: daily purpose. This isn't some grand, life-altering purpose in a philosophical sense. It's the small, everyday purpose that helps you get out of bed in the morning. It's the reason you look forward to the day ahead. Something to do, someone to see, somewhere to go. Purpose doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be something as simple as watering the plants before the sun gets too hot. It could be feeding the neighborhood cat that waits by your door every morning. It could be writing a letter to your granddaughter or fixing the squeaky hinge on the back gate. But when these little routines start to slip away, when mornings come and you have no reason to get up, and evenings arrive with nothing to reflect on, the quiet loss begins. Something inside starts to shut down. You see, the body listens to the mind. When the mind no longer sees a reason to move forward, the body follows. Appetite drops, movement slows, and without purpose, the systems that once regulated your health quietly stop functioning, not because they're broken but because they're waiting for a reason to switch back on. This often happens slowly, so it's easy to miss. Maybe your weekly bridge game got canceled. Maybe the church group stopped meeting. Maybe your family visits less often, or the volunteer role you enjoyed ended when your knees started aching. You might tell yourself that these changes are just a normal part of aging, but deep down you can feel it. The days start to blend together, each one a little quieter than the last. I once met a woman named Carol, 78, who seemed more alive than many people half her age. She wasn't wealthy, didn't have perfect health, and wasn't surrounded by a large family. But what Carol had was one thing that never left her routine. Every Monday she wrote postcards to people in her church who were homebound. Every Thursday she made soup and froze it for a local shelter. Every day at 4 p.m. she would sit at her window and watch the neighborhood kids walk home from school. She knew their names and they waved to her and she waved back. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave Carol's days texture. It gave her heart rhythm. It gave her life continuity. And that's the secret no one tells you. The body stays alive as long as it believes it's needed. Even the smallest purpose is like fuel. It tells your body to keep repairing itself, to keep functioning, to keep learning. When you lose that sense of relevance, when you feel like your presence no longer matters to anyone or anything, the flame inside you begins to dim. That's why people who live beyond 70 with grace and vitality often have something that anchors their day. It could be a garden, a pet, a journal, a phone call, a ritual, or a simple morning prayer. What matters isn't the size of the task or the activity, but the consistency. It's knowing that when you open your eyes in the morning, there's a reason to rise. If you've been feeling a little adrift, like your days have lost their shape or meaning, don't ignore it. That's not just sadness. It's a signal. Your body is asking for rhythm, for structure, for connection, for purpose. Because at the end of the day, longevity isn't just about the heart continuing to beat. It's about the heart wanting to keep beating. That quiet desire to keep going, to stay connected, to still matter, that's what carries people past 70 and into lives that still feel full and purposeful. So, if you're watching this video and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us keep creating content that informs and inspires. Now let's continue exploring. Reason 3. The impact of unacknowledged stress. As we age, we often find that our ability to cope with stress can change, and sometimes it's not because we have more to worry about, but because we've been carrying stress for so long that we don't even realize it anymore. Stress is something that affects us all, but as we reach our 70s and 80s, it can begin to take a deeper, more invisible toll on our bodies and minds. The truth is, many older adults experience chronic, low-level stress. Stress that's always there but doesn't always feel overwhelming. Maybe it's the worry about finances, the loss of loved ones, or the fear of losing independence. It could be the small, everyday stresses like managing health issues, keeping up with household chores, or feeling isolated. These stressors often get pushed aside because they feel like a normal part of life, something you just have to live with. But the body doesn't forget stress, even if we try to push it down or ignore it. Over time, constant stress, especially when it's unacknowledged, can weaken the immune system, cause high blood pressure, disturb sleep patterns, and even affect memory. It doesn't always show up in dramatic ways, but it builds up and makes it harder for your body to heal and stay resilient. What starts as a manageable level of stress can gradually turn into something that saps your energy, diminishes your ability to think clearly, and impacts your overall well-being. The tricky thing is, stress isn't just a mental or emotional issue, it has very real physical consequences. When we're stressed, our bodies release cortisol, a hormone that's meant to help us deal with short bursts of stress, like running from danger. But when cortisol is released constantly, it begins to take a toll, decreasing bone density, increasing the risk of heart disease, and affecting brain function. The chronic stress response can even lead to depression and anxiety, making it harder to enjoy life and find joy in simple pleasures. I remember a woman named Dorothy, 82, who seemed to be doing well on the outside. She had a small circle of friends, a close-knit family, and was in reasonably good health. But over time she began to feel more and more exhausted despite resting. She found it harder to concentrate and her memory started slipping. It wasn't until we started talking about her day-to-day life that she admitted to carrying years of unaddressed stress, worrying about her children, managing her finances on a fixed income, and dealing with ongoing aches and pains. Dorothy had never really acknowledged how much stress she'd been carrying, assuming it was just part of getting older. But as we discussed it, she realized how much relief she could get by expressing her worries, seeking help, and even letting go of some of the smaller things she'd been holding on to. The good news is that once you begin to recognize and address stress, your body can start to heal. It's important to find ways to relax, whether it's through breathing exercises, meditation, talking to a friend, or simply allowing yourself to rest. Recognizing the stress you've been under and making space for relief can help reset your body and mind. For those who live well past 80, one common thread is their ability to manage stress in healthy ways. They have learned that it's not about avoiding stress altogether, but about finding outlets to process it, whether through creative hobbies, community involvement, or simply acknowledging it and letting it go. This approach allows the body to reset and rebuild. So if you've been feeling more worn down, if small things feel overwhelming, or if you've noticed your stress levels rising and not going down, it's time to give yourself permission to feel, acknowledge, and release that stress. Your body and mind will thank you for it, and you'll find that your energy, clarity, and overall well-being improve as a result. The truth is, you're never too old to start managing stress better and finding peace. And when you do, your body will respond by keeping you healthier, sharper, and more connected to life. Reason 4. The silent decline of microsocial engagement. As we age, one of the most subtle yet impactful changes we experience is a gradual withdrawal from the small, everyday interactions that once filled our lives. This phenomenon, known as microsocial engagement, is something many of us don't even notice, yet it plays a pivotal role in maintaining our vitality long into our later years. Now, these aren't the deep, meaningful friendships or the family gatherings we all cherish, though those are certainly important. What we're talking about here are the brief, seemingly insignificant interactions we have with others throughout our day. Think back to how often you used to exchange a smile or a simple hello with the mail carrier, share a quick joke with the cashier at the grocery store, or wave to a neighbor as they walked their dog down the street. These small moments, while often overlooked, were more than just polite gestures. They were essential to our well-being. These everyday exchanges were not just pleasant distractions. They had a biological purpose. They helped regulate our nervous system, reinforced our sense of belonging, and kept the social wiring of our brains sharp and engaged. But here's the catch. After the age of 70, many of us begin to pull away from these interactions. We stop going to the store ourselves, opting to shop online or asking family members to help. Conversations with strangers become more difficult as our hearing declines, and we stop engaging in casual chats because it feels like too much effort. We may even find ourselves staying inside, avoiding walks or trips out simply because the weather is too cold or our bodies don't feel as steady as they once did. And when these small social touchpoints begin to fade, something else fades as well: our vitality. What's fascinating and perhaps surprising to many is that we often don't realize this is happening. We may believe we're simply simplifying our lives, making things easier on ourselves. But in reality, we're stripping away the very interactions that keep our brains functioning at their best, lift our moods, and provide the subtle signals our bodies need to feel like we are still active participants in the world around us. I've seen it firsthand with elderly men in their 70s who have stayed mentally sharp simply by following a daily routine of walking to the same coffee shop every morning, greeting the same friendly baristas, and nodding to the same familiar faces they passed on the corner. That brief, 5-minute stretch of human connection, though seemingly trivial, became their lifeblood. It shaped their day, gave them something to look forward to, and most importantly, made them feel seen and acknowledged. When these tiny moments of human connection disappear, the brain begins to respond in a very real and biological way. It treats loneliness, whether deep or subtle, as a stressor, and in turn, it disrupts hormone levels, increases inflammation, and weakens our immune system. But the most damaging effect is on the brain's cognitive functions. The networks responsible for memory, attention, and emotional regulation begin to shrink, which accelerates the aging process. In simple terms, it makes you feel older faster. So, if you've noticed that you're talking to fewer people during the day, or perhaps you've stopped going out for small errands, or if casual conversations have become scarce, it's time to turn that around. It's never too late to re-engage with the world, even in small ways. Those moments of connection, no matter how brief, are telling your brain and body something profound, that you still matter, that you're still part of something larger than yourself. And that message, the reminder that we are seen, heard, and connected, is one of the most powerful forms of medicine we can take. Not just for our physical health, but for the spirit that keeps us going long after the years have passed. So, if you're watching this video and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to do so and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us keep creating content that informs and inspires. Now let's continue exploring. Reason 5. Disrupted sleep cycles from irregular light exposure. Inside your body, there's a silent, invisible clock that controls almost everything. Your mood, metabolism, immune system, and even how your brain repairs itself at night. This clock is known as your circadian rhythm, and as we age, it becomes increasingly sensitive. After the age of 70, it becomes even more delicate, making you more vulnerable to disruptions that can impact your sleep and overall health. One of the biggest culprits for this disruption is irregular light exposure. Too little light during the day and too much at night. You might not notice it at first. Perhaps you've found yourself nodding off in the afternoon sun or taking longer naps during the day. Maybe especially during colder months you've stopped going outside as often. You might stay inside watching TV or reading late into the evening with the lights on. While these small changes may seem harmless, they can quietly confuse your internal clock, making it harder to know when it's time to be alert and when it's time to rest. Your body depends on natural light to maintain its rhythm. Bright morning light tells your brain it's time to wake up, get moving, and energize the body. On the other hand, darkness at night signals the release of melatonin, the gentle hormone that prepares you for deep, restorative sleep. However, when your eyes don't get enough natural light during the day, or when your evenings are filled with the bright artificial light of screens and lamps, your internal signals get scrambled. The result? You may struggle to fall asleep or stay asleep through the night. Even after a full 8 hours of rest, you might wake up feeling groggy. You might notice your energy lagging throughout the day or your memory becoming foggier than usual. Over time, the disruption to your sleep cycle can have far-reaching consequences. It weakens your immune system, makes your mood less stable, and even increases the risk of cognitive decline. Another critical issue here is vitamin D. Your body naturally produces vitamin D when your skin is exposed to sunlight, but after 70, your ability to synthesize this important vitamin decreases. This makes regular exposure to natural light even more vital. Without it, your bones, muscles, and immune system begin to suffer. I once spoke with an 84-year-old woman named Helen who had been feeling increasingly fatigued and disoriented. Her blood work was normal, her diet hadn't changed, and she wasn't on any new medications. The turning point came when her doctor suggested something simple. Spend 20 minutes every morning sitting by the window with her blinds open to soak in the natural light, and turn off all screens an hour before bed. In just 2 weeks, her sleep improved dramatically, as did her memory and mood. It wasn't a new medication, it was light. So, if you've been spending most of your time indoors with the curtains drawn, or if your evenings are consumed by blue light from your phone or TV, it's time to make a change. Try to get outside within an hour of waking up, even if it's just for a few minutes on your porch. Let your eyes and skin soak in the morning light. In the evening, dim the lights and allow your body to prepare for rest. These simple, natural rhythms do more than just provide comfort. They are essential for your survival. What many people don't realize is that aging doesn't just happen from wear and tear. It also happens from disorganization when your body systems fall out of sync. Restoring your light exposure, your sleep schedule, and your daily rhythms is how you bring your body back into balance. It's how you tell your body, no matter how old you are, that we are still on track. We are still moving. We are still here. Reason 6. The hidden dangers of overcautious inactivity. As we age, one of the more subtle reasons many people struggle to stay healthy and live long after 70 is the tendency to become overly cautious. At first glance, this may seem like wisdom, taking care, avoiding unnecessary risks. But there's a fine line between being cautious and becoming paralyzed by fear of what could happen. And once that line is crossed, the consequences aren't immediate, but they are always cumulative. It often starts with good intentions. Maybe you had a slip on the stairs or nearly lost your balance while walking on the sidewalk. You tell yourself you need to be more careful, so you decide to limit how often you walk outside. You stop reaching down to lower shelves, or avoid climbing into the back seat of a car. Instead of staying active, you sit down more and stay sitting longer. Those around you may encourage this behavior, telling you to take it easy, to not push yourself too hard. In time, you may realize that you've created a life that's safer, but at the cost of the movement that keeps you healthy. Here's the part that no one talks about. When movement stops, so does strength. And I'm not just talking about the strength in your legs or arms, but in your overall coordination, balance, and even your inner stability. Our bodies are not machines that simply rest to remain efficient. They're more like gardens that need tending. When activity slows to a crawl, things don't just stay the same, they begin to weaken. One of the first places this becomes noticeable is in the core. Most people don't realize just how important those deep trunk muscles are for everything we do. Standing, walking, lifting, even getting out of a chair. If those muscles go unused even for a few weeks, they start to shrink. And when they shrink, your balance suffers. You may find yourself starting to wobble, and as that happens, the cycle of inactivity deepens. I knew a man named George, 82, who stopped going on his evening walks after he slipped once on a rainy day. There were no broken bones, just a scare. But that one scare was enough for him to abandon his nightly mile-long walks. Over time, he replaced his active evenings with sitting and watching television. Within just 6 months, he lost 10 pounds of muscle and his legs felt like jelly. His doctor warned him, but the damage had already started. George didn't stop walking because he was weak, he became weak because he stopped moving. Now, I'm not suggesting you ignore real risks. There are smart ways to protect yourself. Use handrails, wear stable shoes, clear walkways, or even use a cane if it helps. The point is, there's a difference between managing risk and surrendering to it. When fear starts to dictate your movements, the body forgets how to move at all. So, if you've noticed that you're doing less, not because you physically can't, but because you're afraid of what might happen, it's time to pay attention to that fear. Ask yourself, am I protecting myself or am I slowly fading away? Staying alive after 70 isn't just about avoiding falls. It's about continuing to move, even if you have to move more carefully, more slowly, or more deliberately. Movement is how your body remembers that it's still needed. It's how your systems stay active, your brain stays alert, and your heart continues to beat with purpose. Final thoughts. As we move through our later years, the way we age isn't just a matter of genetics or luck. It's shaped by the small, often overlooked choices and changes we make, and by how we care for our bodies and minds. Each of the factors we've discussed, whether it's the loss of microsocial connections, the creeping overcautiousness, disrupted sleep cycles, unprocessed emotions, or the erosion of daily purpose, play a crucial role in how we experience life after 70. The good news is none of these challenges are inevitable. Many of them can be addressed with awareness, small changes, and a bit of attention to our daily habits. We may not be able to stop time, but we can certainly make the most of the time we have by staying engaged, staying active, and most importantly, staying connected to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. Aging isn't just about getting older, it's about living fully with purpose, connection, and care. It's about recognizing when we've lost our spark and doing something to rekindle it. And the most powerful thing we can do is to embrace each day with intention, remembering that even as we age, we are still needed, still relevant, and still capable of living rich, meaningful lives. If you found these insights helpful, I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on your own life and ask yourself, what small changes can I make to enhance my well-being? Whether it's re-engaging with an old hobby, reaching out to a friend, or simply letting yourself feel the emotions you've been holding in, remember, your body and your heart can keep going strong as long as you give them the space to do so. Thank you for joining me on this journey of reflection and growth. Take care, stay connected, and let's continue to embrace life at every stage. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with anyone who might benefit from these insights. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you never miss out on more content to inspire and empower you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know how you're embracing each day with purpose. Remember, it's never too late to live a full, meaningful life. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.